With the Samsung S21, Samsung has done something that we haven't seen in what seems like a decade. It's dropped the price of its flagship phones. At $799 US, the S21 is $200 cheaper than last year's S20. So what has Samsung done to do this? Has it cut too many corners and crippled the S21? I'll be taking you through my review of the Samsung S21, having used it as my daily phone for the last few weeks. I'll take you through its features, compare it against last year's S22, and finally give you my verdict on whether I think it's worth buying or upgrading to. Welcome to my tech gear, let's get into it. Before we go any further, if you do enjoy the video, please don't forget to like and share it. And if you're not subscribed yet, then please consider doing so using the button down below and hit that notification bell so you're notified about new videos as and when I post them. It really helps me grow up this channel so that I can keep making videos like this for you. Thanks. Now, as I said, I've been using this phone for the last 2 weeks, and in general I've actually been liking this. It's not without some caveats though, which I'll get to later. First up is the design. So at the front we've got a basic 6.2 inch flat full HD screen. We've got the smooth edges around the outside of the phone, which flow into the camera surround in what Samsung is calling its contour cut. The camera module itself is a triple camera affair. On the front we've got an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor built into the front screen. We have a USB-C port at the bottom with no audio jack. I think we just need to say goodbye to the audio jack for now. It hasn't appeared on flagship phones for several iterations now. And on the back we are now seeing no glass. It's now what Samsung is calling Glastic. That's a plastic back for everybody else. And I have to say though, it is done incredibly well. The finish is this lovely brushed matte finish, and it makes the phone lighter for it too, whilst also helping to drop the price. Personally, I prefer it over glass. It's just one less thing to shatter. It comes in a range of pastel colours too, including white, black and pink. This is the Phantom Violet version, which with the gold trim around the outside, I think looks pretty smart. It is the same screen in size at least as last year's S20 with a 6.2 inch screen. The difference here is the drop down to 1080p rather than the 1440p that was on last year's S20. Given that the S20 wouldn't let you have a 120Hz refresh rate without dropping it down to 1080p though, I don't think it's a drop that most people are going to notice, as in my opinion having a faster refresh rate is more important and noticeable than a higher resolution, at least on a 6-inch screen. And the refresh rate sees a difference here too. Whilst both the previous S20 and the S21 support 120Hz refresh rate, it's the S21 that adds to this by supporting variable refresh rate. So rather than locking the refresh rate to 60 or 120Hz, such as the S20, with variable refresh rates, the S21 fluctuates the refresh rate between 48 and 120Hz. It will set the refresh rate higher if you're playing games and things like that, and then drop that if you're looking at stationary images such as photos. It's a great innovation that will aid battery life performance without impacting the user experience. The front of the screen also sees a built-in ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, as I said before, and this is super responsive. It's been significantly quicker for me than last year's phone and picks up my fingerprint really quickly and easily. And battery life here is pretty good, with the S21 easily able to last a full day unless you are completely smashing it with high CPU intensive tasks. For comparison's sake, the battery lasts longer than in the iPhone 12, but not as long as in the iPhone 12 Pro Max. For gameplay, this phone really is a dream to play on. That full HD screen running at 120Hz with the powerful CPU behind it makes for a buttery smooth and responsive gameplay. The size of the phone also makes it really easy to hold and operate the on-screen in-game buttons. I didn't notice any slowdown in performance. I'm not a great game player, but I was doing okay in Call of Duty and holding my own, and I'm certain that part of that is how easy it was to game on this phone. So it's definitely a thumbs up in that department. The camera and video setup is probably the area of interest to most people. The setup here is largely the same as last year's S20, with a triple camera display on the back, consisting of a 12MP f1.8 main camera, a 64MP 2.0 telephoto lens, and finally a 12MP f2.2 ultra wide camera. Whilst it's essentially the same hardware, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Google has been churning out Pixel phones with essentially the same camera in them for years, but have continued to make leaps and bounds in camera performance by focusing on software processing of images. It's a choice that Samsung are focusing on here too. The faster processor in the S21 allows for better, well, processing of images to provide clearer, more defined images in a wider variety of conditions. From close-up to ultra-wide and landscape to portrait, and even night mode shots come out incredibly well on this phone. Certainly for night shots, I'd recommend sticking with the main 12 megapixel camera, as its f1.8 lens will do better in low light. Switching between the different lenses is really simple to do too. Just clicking the tree or leaf icon on the main screen switches easily between the three with very little delay. The standard point and shoot auto modes will suit most people here, but there are a range of advanced modes that I'd thoroughly recommend trying out. The portrait mode is also a great way of getting quick and easy selfie photos with that bokeh blurred effect background. And the front selfie camera itself is more than capable of taking good photos with its 10 megapixel lens, but with an f2.2 aperture it's best left to bright conditions. The front camera does miss out on some of the advanced features that the rear lenses have, but as a simple point and shoot selfie camera it's more than sufficient. The video captured on this phone is impressive too. It will allow you to shoot up to 8K at 24 frames a second, 4K at up to 60 frames per second, and 1080p at up to 120 frames per second. Add to that the amount of flexibility in Pro mode, where you can get pretty much any setting changes you want, from shutter speed to exposure to white balance to ISO settings, and so on and so forth. It's the most feature-rich out-of-box camera software that I've used to date. You can also switch to auto mode though if you just want to rely on a good old point and shoot, as the camera does a great job of keeping things in focus and correctly exposed. For me, it's 4K video that is the sweet spot here, as zooming and editing at this resolution still provides great Final Cut videos, and the 60 frames per second just gives you more options for slow-mos and the such like. And the selfie video on this is actually pretty good. It's actually quite windy at the moment, so this is just the audio straight out of the camera, no wind filter or anything else. But it gives you an idea of what the camera's like and what the mic is like on the phone. So the camera is certainly capable of producing some great videos and photos from the triple lens combo. It does, however, fall shy of some of the capabilities of the S21 Ultra, which is Samsung's top flagship phone, which features 100 times space zoom, and it's just got a more versatile lens combination all round. However, that phone is $400 more expensive than this phone. So for most people, you're going to be more than happy with the camera on this phone. If we have a look at the user interface here now, the best thing that Samsung has done with One UI is finally make it easy to replace Bixby Newsfeed, or Samsung Free as it's now being called, with Google Now. Previously, you had to resort to installing a third-party launcher in order to get this to work, which, whilst easy enough to do, it was just a pain and shouldn't be necessary. Replacing it is now as easy as going into your home screen settings, swiping left to the Bixby screen, and choosing Google instead. Super easy. The S20 will also eventually get this upgrade too, so it's not a real differentiator if you're coming from the S20, unless of course you want the One UI as soon as possible. And as always, there are two versions of this phone, with the States getting the S21 powered by the Snapdragon 888 chipset, and pretty much the rest of the world getting the S21 powered by Samsung's own Exynos 2100 chipset. And it's been like this for several years, with generally the rest of the world getting a significantly subpar processor to its Snapdragon counterpart. However, with the Exynos 2100, Samsung has significantly closed this gap. Moving the processor to a 5nm architecture has definitely helped a lot with that, although the Snapdragon is on that same architecture too. For both processors, this means a decent upgrade over last year's chipset in the S20, and also better battery performance due to a more efficient processor. For the average person, you're not going to notice a difference between the two different chipsets, so most people will be happy with what you've got. If, however, you're a power user who uses the phone for gaming and high CPU intensive tasks for hours at a time, then you will see a difference, with the Snapdragon 888 generally being better at power management and producing better performance at higher temperatures. I feel like I'm being over picky here though. It is a difference, it's just not a difference that I think most people will notice. Either phone though is definitely an upgrade over last year's S20. And the negligible difference between the two processors plays out in graphical tests here too. So here we have 3D Mark's Wildlife Test, which is a test that focuses on testing mobile devices, and if you look at the performance chart, you can see that Apple takes out top spot, or several top spots here. Samsung S21, however, is one of two Android devices in the top 20, and the differences between the Exynos version and the Snapdragon 888 version is negligible. As I said, I don't think you're going to notice the difference between the two. Perhaps the biggest omission here is that there is no phone charger in the box. In fact, there's no phone charger with any phone in the S21 range. Samsung, like Apple, are citing environmental reasons for this, although the funny thing is that Samsung had a few digs at Apple when they did this a few months ago, and then Samsung go and do exactly the same thing now. Personally, I see it as a purely cost-cutting measure. I'm not sure how front and centre the environment was when Apple and Samsung made that choice. Still, it is one of the reasons that allows Samsung to drop the price of this phone by $200 compared to last year, so I'm not complaining. And I'm sure most people have a few mobile chargers lying around the house that will work with this phone. If you are looking at buying a charger, it is worth pointing out that only the Samsung official charger seems to charge the phone at 25 watts, which is the max power level that this phone will charge at. Most other third-party chargers will only charge at a maximum rate of 15 watts, regardless of what the rating of the actual charger is itself. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but it will still charge your phone relatively quickly. So when all is said and done, should you buy this phone? And with the usual caveat of it depends, here goes. If you are new to the mobile phone market and are looking for a flagship phone but without the flagship price, then yes, definitely consider this phone. At $799, it is $200 cheaper than last year's S20 and $400 cheaper than the super flagship S21 Ultra. It does come with some compromises though to get there. It has a plastic back, there's no charger in the box, it is only full HD screen, although it does retain its 120Hz refresh rate. Personally, I still think it's laughable that we consider 1080p to be low spec on what is only a 6-inch screen. And it does also only have a triple lens camera on the back. I think Samsung made the right compromises here though, sticking with the premium parts where it matters, such as the core processor, and making small compromises elsewhere. This all adds up to a total package that is, in my book, a perfect package. Compared to the competition at comparable prices, it is, for me, the best phone on the market. I love the size of the phone overall. I'm not a huge fan of big phones. I love the vibrant screen, the photos and video it takes, and how fast the phone runs. If, however, you've already got a flagship from last year, like the S20, then should you upgrade? That's a harder question to answer. The S21 is definitely better. I just don't think that it's significantly better to justify an upgrade. If you've got money to burn or you can get a good deal on it, then yes, get the upgrade. Personally, that's what I did. Otherwise, stick with what you've got. The S20 is also getting the One UI upgrade to 3.1 soon, so that will also help close the gap there. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it helped you decide whether the S21 is the right phone for you. Do let me know in the comments down below what you thought of it and whether you went ahead and bought one. If you're still here and not subscribed, then please consider hitting the subscribe button down below. And as always, see you in the next one.